absolutely certain if somebody's in sales that I can help them make them better. However, you're probably not ready for me yet. And that's what I'm skeptical about. You should be 100% certain that whatever kind of message they're trying to get out, whatever kind of video production they need, you could crush it. However, you got to be skeptical that they're actually ready to do the things that it takes to make that happen.
Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. I love that. Well, let me ask you this. Before I even get any further, what would you say your superpower is? What did you take that ADHD and channel it into just being really good at?
I think that I am really good at reading people. I feel like I can connect with people very quickly. Part of the skills that I have are being very direct with people, not beating around the bush, but getting right down to the point, being able to get to a really deeper conversation more quickly than most people are, than they're ready to have. But my point is I can get right to the point and dig right in, and I've learned to keep people okay when we're having these conversations that can be difficult. And that to me is a superpower. I think ADHD gives me that. I believe ADHD is absolutely a superpower as long as you control it and manage it. I don't think it makes me smarter than anybody else, but I do see a lot of things, and I see things faster than other people do.
Yeah, that's aweseven.
So,
you're an author.
Also probably makes me a pain in the ass to live with.
Yeah, my wife probably goes to therapy just to talk about me, not even her.
100%. Oh, yeah, right.
So
exactly.
You're an author. I just got this book, so I haven't had a chance to really dig into it in depth. It just, as of the recording, that it's just released, right? Officially.
Thank you. It's weird. You're the first person that's really called me an author, and it kind of hits different. It's kind of funny because I usually make fun of authors.
Right.
But the book's been out for a couple of weeks. It's been very surreal. I really put my heart and a lot of my ideas into that book, and it's interesting to me that, to watch on the outside where somebody actually would pay for the book with my ideas and my heart in it, and would take it and read it and even say nice things. So it's kind of an amazing, interesting, fun thing. It really is. It's cool.
That's cool. And for those who are listening and didn't see me hold up the book, it's called Some Will, Some Won't. So What? Who's Next? Which I think.
There we go.
Yeah.
There's the book right there. Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next?
And that's literally your speech cadence. That's a direct quote from you. It feels like
it is. It is.
Yeah. So is that something you say?
It's something I say. It's something I believe. It's and part of the thing you mentioned it, head trash. People think about sales training is learning either all about your products, which it shouldn't be. That's product training. Other people think it's some slick line to trick somebody. The reality is the greatest sales training begins with working between your ears. To recognize what you said, that we are all okay, and that my value is not based upon this person buying from me or me making this much money. My value comes from God all the time. I'm 100% of value all the time, and nothing can take that away. So, and if you start with that, I would call it limitless, or you start with that idea, and then you recognize if I believe that, then I don't make any excuses. Yeah. I'm equal to everybody else on the planet. I have just as much right to say no and walk away as somebody else does. I'm not the right fit for everybody. All those things become natural once you begin to get comfortable in your own skin and recognize I've got the same value as the person laying in the gutter, and the same value in God's eyes as the person who has all the money in the world, and the same value as Mother Teresa. But that's most people. I'll just only speak for men because I really don't understand women at all, even after being married 27 years, is that men will often have their whole value wrapped around their profession.
So true.
They say, I'm a lawyer, right? And so, but when they retire, all of a sudden they become a nothing.
Right.
And that's why people really suck at that part, or they feel lost. And we're so much more than our jobs. We're so much more than being a parent or a husband or a golfer or a hunter or whatever. That's not our value. Our value is that in my mind, that we're loved by God fully, by our Creator. And everything else is just things that we do.
Yeah.
including being a sales guy.
Yeah, and I 100% would agree with you on that, and that's something that I've struggled with myself. Especially going through my career, especially as an entrepreneur. You're really tied to it, and I only know the perspective of an entrepreneur. So because it's been a lifelong curse, and I haven't been able to figure out how to fix it. So and I imagine there are career people that feel the same way. But having your worth tied into what you can produce is such a dangerous thing, because there are many times when I am not batting 100, and I'm just not giving my best work, and I'm not, feeling it. And
or somebody else doesn't recognize it.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because part of it realizing that you are 100% fulfill, or you're 100% value, is that you recognize that other people's opinions of you don't matter anymore.
Right.
It doesn't matter that somebody doesn't think you're great. It doesn't matter that somebody thinks you're a jerk, or it doesn't matter that somebody thinks you're the greatest thing in the whole world. That's really none of your business. Mm-hmm. That's not what gives you value. So yeah, it's a thing that you have. And again, I act like I'm perfect at this. I'm not. I think the world is set up to knock us down all the time, right? Yeah. You're not good looking enough. You're not fast enough. For God's sake, you're not rich enough. You don't have enough Bitcoin. What are those things, right?
And it seems of all of the professions that where head trash could sneak in, it's sales. I mean, sales is just it's such a brutal business, and especially if you're in that lead gen side of things. There's so much no that you hear. Yep. Which if you get you in the right mindset, then you're like, man, no is a great word, because that gets me to my next yes. But it's hard to have all that mindset.
Or no in the first call is better than a no in the sixth call. In other words, if I can figure out in the first meeting this guy's not going to be a prospect for me, that's a freaking blessing. If it takes 5 meetings to figure that out, then that's a curse.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Which is why I really talk to people about, most of my training is about being better ourselves at being decision makers, being able to say yes or no to things. And we were going, just for example, to go purchase something, have an idea what you're willing to pay, go to some place that you trust, somebody you trust, and make a yes and pick something. As opposed to, so many people have to do so much research, and we have to go go to 3 places, and we've got to go do all these different things. And while that may make you a really good buyer, I'll grant you that, if you do that, you believe that that's normal. Yeah. And so when your prospect says, let me think it over, you say, okay, I would want to think it over too, something like this. I completely understand that. Yeah. When in fact, that's most of your prospects are telling you no when they say that.
Right.
So we need to recognize that up front. Yeah. So, and tell people up before the meeting, let's decide whether or not we should move forward. If you want to, great, here's a contract. If you don't want to, no big deal. We'll be done, talk another time.
Yeah. I've closed some of the biggest projects I've closed when I've had the contract there in that second meeting, where I'm like, here's the contract. Do you want to sign today? And they'll be like, okay.
Yeah. And especially if you tell somebody before the meeting, look, I'm going to bring you a contract. And so why don't we figure out at the end of the meeting whether or not it makes sense for us to sign it? Yeah. People don't know how to buy what you sell. They really don't know. Yeah. And left to their own devices, they'll take all the time in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. So as people may infer, your job, what you do, what you get paid for is to be a sales coach. Is that a yeah? So are you
sales training, coaching, consulting, all those things?
Perfect.
Yes.
Who are the people that you tend to serve? Like, is there a specific industry or group of people that?
It's kind of wild. It's one of the things I love about how my practice has developed. I've worked with from people that in businesses I didn't even know were businesses. One of my clients that I love, I worked with them for 3 years, with folks that sold supplies to chimney sweeps. Who knew that was a thing? I worked with this company, their whole job was doing signage and repair on convenience store canopies. They would change, you went from Shell to Exxon, they would change the signs and they would do repair and maintenance on canopies. Who knew that was a thing? Yeah. But I work with a lot of guys in financial services, commercial insurance, wealth management. I also work with guys that sell big, heavy equipment. I work with a couple of marketing companies. I work with people that sell forklifts and racking and stuff that goes inside of industrial buildings, consultants, accountants. So it's been kind of all over the board, and that to me is the fun part, is going, I got to figure out how this works. How does this really work in there? How would my process work in their world?
Sure, yeah.
And that's what's been fun to me.
I imagine no matter what the industry, whether it's a niche product for a very niche industry, or if it's something very common, the principles are pretty much the same. I mean, do you see the same problems and the same solutions to the most part?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing, right? Ultimately, good selling is having somebody trust you enough to give you money to make a problem go away. Somebody trusts you enough to give you money to make a problem go away. And so ultimately, I believe that there are two questions that a prospect has to answer before they're going to make a change, before you will make a sale. Number one is, am I going to do anything different or differently? That's the first question they got to answer in their own head. Am I going to do anything different or differently? And then number two is, okay, now I'm committed to do that. Who would I do that with? And I believe that most salespeople go about that backwards. And they lead with, let me show you our great stuff. Our stuff is better than theirs. You're going to love this. This is a great product. Right? It's more of a convincing thing.
Right.
But consultative selling, and what we talk about at WS Sales, is let's begin with, I'm going to assume that the prospect has no problems, but I'm going to go in and ask, like a doctor might ask, tell me about this, tell me about that. And what we try and do, we connect with people on an emotional level. People buy emotionally, and then they justify it intellectually. But we've got to tap into their emotions to get there. So there are 3 levels of questions that salespeople, maybe there are more than that. This is kind of how my brain works, right? So first level questions are just data questions. How many, how much, right? Most salespeople will get that stuff. How many, how much, when, that kind of thing, right? Second level questions are the ones people talk about. These are the ones that say they're enlightened because they use these open-ended questions, right? Who, what, where, when, why, how, right? And most people, open-ended questions because those foster a conversation. And you can learn about your prospect's situation. I think most salespeople don't use open-ended questions as much as they think they do. But where the money is made is on the third level questions, which is where we get our prospects' opinions about their current situation. So it's one thing to say, my house is on fire. It's another thing to say, my house is on fire and oh my God, I'm scared to death. Or like a friend of mine said, my house is on fire, let's get the family out. I'm going to wait 30 minutes to call 911 because I want that sumbitch to burn to the ground. Because last time I called 911 too fast, they dumped 200,000 gallons of water on my house and we fought for 3 years with the insurance company, right? So we have to learn. That's a true story. I have to find... we got to find out what our prospects are thinking about their situation. What are their opinions about their situation? Because I don't know about you, I've got over 1 million problems. If I really wanted to think about it, I probably have more than 10 million problems. But there's only a few that I can focus on. Yeah. There are only a few that I can prioritize and actually spend time, money, effort, energy on fixing. And everybody's kind of the same way. So we have to figure out, let's pretend, I know you do fantastic video production for people, right? Isn't that what you do?
Yes.
And films and that kind of stuff. And so there are some people, anybody that does video or film would be lucky to work with you. But there are only some that would prioritize that.
Yep.
Only some that would actually say, you know what, I'm tired of it being shitty, or this is the most important thing we're doing, and I can put the resources towards that. Yep. And just because, and what you know about your stuff that's so great, somebody else might not put value on.
Yep. And
so what we got to do is have those, they need to be able to say, I want to be skeptical that they need my help because people, nobody really wants sales training and nobody really believes they need sales training. And so I'm going to be skeptical that they would actually do anything and say, you probably don't have this problem. You're probably not worried about that. You're probably not worried about this. No. Not as some freaking ninja move, but just as the truth.
Right.
Right. My guess is this is not something that's bothering you, or typically people that come to me say they're frustrated about this, this, and this. Are you even dealing with those things? And if they say, well, yeah, I am, I say, really? Which one? I'm surprised. Not as a move, but because I am surprised. Yeah. And I want them to give me an example. And how often does it happen? And what have you tried to do about it? And did that work? And what do you suppose this cost you? And is that a big deal? What happens if you don't fix it? Because we start with a problem. We've got to get somebody to admit a problem. If they don't admit a problem, no reason to keep talking to them. Yeah. Problem first, and then what are the consequences of that problem in general? right? What are the consequences? And then from there, what are the personal impacts to the person you're talking to? And if there are no personal impacts, it's really hard to make that problem for them to elevate that problem to a high enough level to want to fix it. I don't believe that we can create that in other people. I think that best we can uncover it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's manipulation. I think it's just digging down to the truth, helping them think about things that they hadn't thought about before.
Right.
Some of which will make them say, hell yeah, I got to fix that. Other people say, yeah, it's a big deal, but I'm not ready to do anything about that now. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? No pressure.
I love that.
Right.
I see, because what I see is you're approaching the sale with skepticism versus optimism.
100%. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's such a difference, and I think a lot of salespeople, at least, I mean, I can't speak for all salespeople. I can only speak for myself. I approach life with optimism. So,
Sure.
and I'm just like, okay, I got a warm body. I know I can help them. I've already I can already evaluate them, and see these are problems, and so I'll approach it very much in a optimistic way of all I got to do is just convince them that I can help them, and it's a matter of how much.
Here's the way I want you to flip that script. I want you to be like I am. I'm absolutely certain if somebody's in sales that I can help them make them better. I'm 100% certain with every fiber in my being that if you're in sales, I can help you get better, make more money, have more fun, close deals faster. I'm certain. However, you're probably not ready for me yet. And that's what I'm skeptical about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
You should be 100% certain that whatever kind of message they're trying to get out, whatever kind of video production they need, you could crush it. However, you got to be skeptical that they're actually ready to do the things that it takes to make that happen.
Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. I love that. Because that's how
it's not this wimpy thing. People are like, oh, I want to be positive. Well, be positive. You can help people.
Right.
Be skeptical they're ready.
Yeah.
Because most of them are not.
Who's the best salesperson that you've ever met? Like what makes them great at what they do?
Boy, that's a good question.
It can't be you, Walker.
It's not me. I'll have to come back to that.
Okay.
There's a guy in Greenville, and his name is, well, there are two. One of them is John Sterling, who you know, I think.
Love John.
I love John Sterling. He was a client of mine. I love him. We've been great friends. And another one's a guy named Stephen Ross. And Stephen Ross to me is more of a transformational story. Stephen, when I first met him, very negative, just very cynical about the world, just was, shitty, blah, 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 and began to show Stephen was a quick learner, but he began to pick up on this thing about I can actually, once I quit making excuses and once I start being direct with people and I start recognizing that my value is not based upon making this sale, right? My value is coming from some other place. And all of a sudden, Stephen just, he started snapping into things. And what I love about Stephen Stephen really got into the heating and air conditioner business, and he was working for a heating and air conditioning company, and he became the #1 salesperson of solar heating and air conditioning, geothermal solar heating and air conditioning systems for Lennox in the country in Columbia, South Carolina. He sold 4 times more geothermal and solar heating and air conditioning than any other company, any other company in the United States.
Wow.
4 times. And crushed it. And so they ended up, going to work for Lennox themselves to train them in sales. And then he got out and he started doing his own training again. And he has the fastest mind and very skeptical, and is able to reverse questions and reverse questions and reverse questions until you don't even see what he's doing. And he gets to the point, if it turns out that somebody's not ready, he's like, look, I don't think this is the right time. And the wild thing is he does a lot of business to consumer sales training, like HVAC companies too. I don't do those. I love it when I'll pass that stuff off to him. But he has this way of dealing with consumers that's in, out, professional, no begging, not wasting any time. And he does the right thing, which I really appreciate. So I'd say he's the one. And then John Sterling's just an amazing guy, and I just love him.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to watch him grow and do what he's doing.
What are the misconceptions that people go through with sales? I know there was, in your book, you talk about the 6 questioning strategies, and there's some super interesting things there. We don't have to go through all 6, but there's just some mindset and like ways that people just look at things that are just not healthy or not helpful.
Yeah.
So good versus bad.
So one is that a lot of people feel I'll go back to this. A lot of people believe that sales is a personality. All right, it's a personality. And so I don't have the personality for sales, or that guy's got the personality for sales, which is code for they probably talk too much, and they probably have a very high need for approval. I mean, they like to have a whole lot of people around them who think and say the same thing they do. I was one of those people. I got into sales. People, you got the personality for sales, which means I, pushy and talk too much, and had a million friends, and I tried to make friends with people. Really, sales is not a personality. Although I do think many years ago, back up again. People that these sales trainers, this Tony Robbins thing, and Grant
Cardone.
What's his name? Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
They have a personality that I think you can sell from a stage with a big personality. I mean, I think that's something I didn't understand was the selling from a stage versus selling one-to-one. Yeah. And people, because Grant Cardone can be this huge, I'm going to call it bully asshole, up on the stage, and people eat that shit up. Yeah. And I'm like, ugh, because that doesn't play one-on-one, right? You come across as an absolute jerk. And so I believe that good selling, introverts are better at good selling than extroverts, for example. Introverts more used to listening. Introverts don't try and convince you of things. Introverts might be curious about what you think. They like, and any of us that have really learned a process, if it's a personality, how do you improve? Wouldn't it be, how do you say you need to improve your personality to up your income? How do you improve your personality?
Right.
I don't understand how that works. But if you're following a process like we teach with steps along the way, each time, if you've been doing this 20 years, there's always a refinement. There's always a refinement. You can tighten up and make it more. I believe that if somebody's a great salesperson and I train them, I don't want them to sound like me. I don't want them to sound like anybody else. I want them to be able to share their true voice. I want them to be the most pure, their own selves. And if they can do that and be authentic and human and be themselves and be sincerely curious and not try and convince people, I think that's another misconception that sales is convincing. I don't know when the last time somebody tried to convince you of something. I know the last time somebody did that to me, it was aggravating as shit. People like to buy, but they don't like to be sold.
No. Yeah.
And so, and it's so funny because none of us like to be sold, but damn, the salespeople go out there and try and sell people, and they say, you shouldn't ever try and sell to friends, and then they go try and make friends with all their prospects, and they don't see the cross of all that. Yep. So I believe in building healthy business relationships as opposed to friendships. I often ask a group, how many of you need more friends? And then immediately I say, any of you raise your hand, you're about to raise your hand, stop, because I will mock you. You do not need more friends, right? If you need more friends, go get a dog. And because your prospects don't need more friends either. I could picture myself years ago, before I knew what I was doing, sitting in somebody's lobby thinking, man, this guy, he went to Clemson and he goes to all the Clemson football games, and if we get to be friends, he can take me and that would be cool, I mean, what's that guy thinking when he knows it's me in the lobby? I got some sales guy, I wonder what he wants. Not wondering how he can be friends with me.
Right.
And so it just puts us at cross purposes. Also, if you go to make friends with somebody so you can sell them something, you're being disingenuous to start with. I mean, the goal of a friendship should be nothing more than the friendship itself.
Exactly.
But a healthy business relationship is 2 or more business people who are knowingly helping each other reach their own business goals. One of my best clients, he's an insurance guy who runs an insurance office of a large company here in South Carolina. And I laughed with him the other day. I said, we've been working together for 6 years. He's paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've talked on the phone, hundreds of hours. I don't know where he lives. I don't know his wife's name. I don't know his kids. I know he has kids, don't know his kids' names. We've never been to dinner, been to lunch one time. You know why? He's busy and I'm busy. He doesn't need that contact.
That's amazing because conventional wisdom says, open up Salesforce or HubSpot, put in the notes, they have, wife is Gladys, they have 3 children and a dog named Fifi, these are the ages. You're supposed to send them on the anniversary of their marriage,
birthday,
yeah, exactly,
of their mother's death, all that shit, right? And look, if you end up being the best of friends with your clients or customers, awesome. However, you don't have to. And I want to have, and I've done that. It's great, right? But I don't like to spend a lot of time out during the week. I don't spend a lot of time entertaining my clients. There are some I know that like that, and if I enjoy them, I'll do that. If I don't enjoy them, I don't do that. And quite frankly, what I find is most people would rather spend time with their family.
Right.
And so if I'm going to if I say, gosh, this person did me a great favor, I ought to take them to dinner, what I'll do is I'll find out from somebody what their favorite restaurant is. I'll buy them a gift certificate and say, go take somebody you love to that restaurant. Why would I intersect myself into that?
Right. Yep.
So
I love that.
And so we don't need to make it, sales is never about us. The relationship is never about me. It's about them. It's a mutual trust and respect, and that's what matters. And if they think I'm an asshole, but they trust me and respect me, it's okay.
Right, and that speaks to authentic relationships because you're not trying to, systematize this fake relationship and this fake friendship so that you can appear to be friendly, so you can then get money out of them, and. As clever as we think we are, I don't think people are that stupid to know to not see through the thin veil.
Right. I went to a guy invited me to come to his office a bunch of years ago. He was a financial planner. He said he wanted to have a networking meeting. That wasn't what he was doing. And I was sitting in he made me sit in his secretary, had me sit in his conference room. I had to wait for 10 minutes. Nice power move. And he comes in and says, lobsters and blueberries. I bet you love lobsters and blueberries. I'm like, excuse me? He says, I know you go to Maine every summer, and I know they got lobsters and blueberries. I bet you love that. And I said, you know what? I go to Maine to go trout fishing way up. I'm farther from lobsters there than I am in Columbia, South Carolina. And blueberries, I eat them at home. I do like those. And he goes, oh, and your wife Sally and your children, he'd gone through all my Facebook shit.
Oh, my goodness.
And was acting like this was his bonding. He knows all about me. I was like, this is creepy as shit. Stop. And I also find that most business people, I know you the same, we're busy. And there are some people, I will ask people when I first get on the phone with my clients, how's your family? Right? Because I want to get that cleared away first.
Yeah.
And usually they'll say, fine. Or my wife is sick. I'll say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Anything to help you? No. Okay, good. Let's get to business.
Yeah.
Because the more time, I feel like we call it professional visiting, where salespeople will go and drop by and say, hey, how you doing? Here's donuts, here's a ham. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about baseball. Let's do, the game, blah, blah. And then they leave and nothing's happened.
Yes.
We call that professional visiting, and you're wasting people's time, and it makes it harder to get back in.
Yep.
I care about their business. I care about helping them. I care about making their life better. I do care. I mean, I don't want anything bad to happen in their families, but I don't need to devote my effort to, what do you think about those Clemson Tigers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they bring it up, I'll say, I know what I think. What do you think? And then they'll tell me, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. And it doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't help them and it doesn't help you to have that conversation.
No, it's bullshit. It's safer. Most people feel like it's safer than actually having a sales conversation, a business conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at that as you're trying to, if your theory is you have to convince them, and then they don't, and you're trying to be friends with them, then that puts your friendship at risk.
Yeah.
But if it's just a healthy business relationship and it's not the right time, listen, I'll catch on to it first. Sounds to me like you're fine. I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe we should talk again later on.
And that closer right there guarantees that in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, when they need the help, who are they going to talk to? They're going to talk to the guy that didn't waste their time.
and they'll take my call.
Right.
When I call back in 6 months, as opposed to, you need to buy this, it's great, you're going to love it. Look, I'll cut the price, we'll make it better.
Yep.
They're never going to take your call. They won't take your call again.
Yep.
Or it's harder to get back in.
Yeah, that's so true. You you talk in your book about third-party stories, which I thought was really fascinating. It's such a great way. It's such a great technique to. And I'll let you go into it, but share value without talking about yourself. Even though you are talking about yourself. Tell us about that.
Sales is never about us, right? And your prospect doesn't give a shit about you. Let me give some terms here. Prospect is somebody who's not yet bought from you. Customer is somebody buying from you ongoing. Client, somebody who pays you every month, right? But prospects don't give a shit about your opinions. Your opinions are worth no more than theirs. Yep. And we'll usually just hurt ourselves by sharing our opinions. And by the way, most people, when they're trying to convince, they'll say, well, we've got the best product and we've got the best service and we've got this. And everybody says that. And it's really not credible when it comes from a salesperson's mouth. So suppose you change your language to say, it's interesting. A lot of our customers tell us that we've got the best products. They tell us that our service is head and shoulders above other people. But you can say it with a shrug like, I don't know, but this is what they're telling me. Yeah. Right? Because I'm inside the sausage factory. How the hell could I know that? Yeah. But I'd say, some of our best customers or other people in your situation, they're coming to us saying, please help me. But I'm not hearing that from you. What am I missing? And it's a way, anytime you want to say something good about yourself or good about your product or good about something or make a suggestion, can I tell you what other people say? Can I tell you what other people are doing in your situation? Yeah. Or even if you want to talk about your competitors, they're like, I don't ever want to badmouth my competitor. No, you shouldn't. But you can say, it's interesting. It's funny, several of our customers have come to us from them, and they've told us that they had trouble with A, B, and C. Sure, you guys aren't having that trouble because they're probably not. Yep. I just said the same damn thing, but I don't sound like a jackass or a I've got the best sales training in the whole country. Bullshit, right? Yeah. But, a lot of people say this is the best sales training they've ever had. That hits different, as the kids say. That hits different, Dad.
and it opens up for their opinion, too. It's not like it's my way or the highway, it's black or white.
Yes.
You're wrong, I'm
not
right.
argue with me.
Right.
Yeah. You can disagree with this customer.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it's not about me. It's never about me.
So good, man. So much knowledge bombs in this episode. So good. I love it. I love your passion for it. I can tell it's something that you absolutely love, and that you wake up every morning with a smile. Seems like to do this and help people.
I do. Yeah, and it's weird because I had such a transformation. There have been three kind of things. One, the guy who trained me on a lot of this stuff, the first thing he did that was the day I grew up was the day that he called me out for making excuses. I was in a sales call and I was the prospect. He was selling me training. I had called him and said, a friend of mine spent a bunch of money with you. I think he got ripped off. I want to come find out what the hell he just bought. That was how arrogant I was. Such an arrogant jerk at 31, 32 years old. And our conversation quickly went to, you're in commercial real estate, Walker was at the time. You must be making $1 million a year. And I said, oh, no. He said, $500,000. I said, no. He said, $250,000. I said, well, I hope this year. And he said, why not $1 million? And I said, well, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and the economy sucks, and this is not this. I've only been doing it 7 years. And I looked up, and he was doing this. I said, what? He said, suppose I told you I thought those were excuses. And the first thing that happened was I kind of flashed red, and then I was like, fuck, wow, he's right. He's right. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, my whole life has been excuses. And it really was. And so that was the day that I accepted that and that I need to take responsibility, 100% responsibility for me. And that was the first thing that changed my world. And then within 2 weeks in class, he started talking about asking questions versus convincing. And so we worked through some of those questioning strategies, and I was like, oh my God, you've just given me the keys to the kingdom. I've just learned something, the scales have fallen from my eyes. I've just learned something that can make a dramatic difference. And so I really dug into that. I really started studying the psychology of sales and the whole process, and I just got really excited about it. And the third thing, I was watching. I'm not hireable. I'm not employable apparently by anybody else. Sounds like you're the same way.
I'm a terrible employee.
I've quit and started my own thing twice now. The most recent time I was working for that sales coach, and we made lots of money together, and we worked together for 11 years. But along that time, I'd let the relationship fall apart, and so you begin to get aggravated. I began to get aggravated, and he with me as well. Yeah. Everything each of us did drove the other one crazy. Yeah. And so I decided that I needed to leave. And so I my brilliant self, we just built a beautiful home, custom home, and I just knew I had no plan. I knew if I quit that I would get hired up into some job where I could make just as much money at least, and right off into the sunset, it'd be great. Well, nobody came around to hire me. I went 90 days with no job and no income. My wife was trying to retire. I had 2 kids in private school, and a mortgage, because we'd screwed up some things, was $7,000 a month. So actually it was 4 mortgages that totaled $7,000 a month because I couldn't sell my old house. Disaster. Wow. So very quickly, I was like, oh, shit. So my wife goes back to more work. We had to sell the house, and we're in a little rental house of half the size. This is 6 years ago, 7 years ago. 52 at the time. And we decided we could either pull the kids out of private school or we could sell the house. And we realized that pulling the kids out of keeping the house, pulling the kids out of private school was to protect our ego. And leaving the kids in private school and selling the house was the right thing for the kids and for our family. So we moved to this rental house, and I was just depressed. And I started my own consulting business. I started being an outsourced VP of sales for companies. And I wasn't good at it. Matter of fact, I sucked at it. It was a bad business model, and I was shitty at it, and I was miserable. And but I was watching this guy on social media. His name was Hank Norman. He worked for a company called 2 Market Media. He's this ugly guy, scraggly beard. And I just watched him on Twitter, and he would talk. And every single video he posted was 30 to 45 seconds long, and he was talking just to me. It was like he followed me around and told me every mistake I was making live and on the spot. And I was like, holy shit, I've never met this guy. How does he know that? And I started to realize, I said, he knows a way to communicate over video that I don't. And if I can learn that along with what I already know, I once again will have the keys to an even bigger kingdom. And so I called him and I said, I want to talk to you. I want to hire you to help me because I need to know what you know. And I said, and by the way, I'm broke. I don't have any money. And I don't care what it costs because I'm going to go to the bank and borrow the money. Because I know if you can teach me what you know, if you can teach me what you're doing, I can make that money back 1,000 times. And he said, you sure you want to do that? And I said, I know no other way. I have to do that. So he gave me a number. I was expecting 50 grand. He said 15 grand. No problem. Went and borrowed the money. And I ended up working with him for 2 years. And not only did he teach me the process of the videos, which was amazing, but also we built a course, which the brilliance of that for me was I have 10,000 hours of material in my head, right. But the process of making the course, like the process of writing the book, was refining my ideas and putting them down and being able to tighten them up all along the way. And so those things that Hank did, that's the best $15,000 I've ever spent. Wow. I mean, it's worth $1 million to me what happened. And I will be forever grateful for him for exposing me to that stuff and challenging me and not putting up with my bullshit, which was fantastic.
That's amazing. Sounds like he came
It was amazing.
Came into your life right at the right time, right when you needed it.
It's amazing how it happens. Yeah, it's amazing how that happens.
That's incredible. Wow.
Who's been that for you?
So, several people. One that comes into mind was whenever I used to be creative director for a marketing agency, And when video came onto the scene and started becoming something that was very popular, and the internet was able to sustain it, you could stream video and all that. I decided to strike back out on my own. I'd already grown a business and sold it, and it was filling that itch. I'm not a good employee. I'm not employable.
Yeah.
So I was ready to scratch the itch and just go out on my own. Talk to the business owner who'd been so gracious and helped me so much with just refining how I thought about marketing and branding and all that.
Yeah.
And parted on really good terms, and I was like, man, I'm striking out on my own. So I started doing freelancing. And just being a videographer, just anything I could get, I would just go into the door and be like, I don't care if you need a video or if you don't think, I'll do it for free, just to get my portfolio.
I'll make it work for you.
I'll just, just get your portfolio built, and just going from thing to thing. Broke is a joke, Married, our first year we made like $27,000, I think, and so she was a part-time Christian school teacher, which means that they didn't even cover her gas pretty much. I mean, she was losing money in gas.
You are being paid by the Lord. Just have to recognize it.
Exactly.
He will provide all of your stuff because we're not gonna.
Right. And then
this is your faith.
Yeah, exactly. And then I came to a point where there's this guy who is a member of the American Society of Cinematographers. He had filmed Terminator Salvation and Need for Speed and Greatest Game Ever Played, all that sort of thing. And he happened to be in Charlotte, and he was doing a seminar, and I barely had any money. I borrowed the money to get there. I didn't know if my car was going to make it, and you kind of sitting in the conference, you're thinking, is this car even going to start back up to get back? I don't know. Changed my life. Taught me what I needed to know to really help rethink about lighting and camera work and all that sort of thing. We hit it off, started joining his mastermind. Then he invites me to West Coast to help start working with him some, and just started opening doors and just all of this stuff. And so he was somebody instrumental in my life that changed how I did my craft in such a powerful way. So those kind of people are gifts. Those kind of people are just really bright points in my life that that they're reminders as I look back. Sometimes when the days get dark, and there's always that time where you're just second guessing yourself. You look back and you be like, no, I'm on the right path, and there's definitely been.
Do you find that those people appear like I do when I commit?
Yep.
I find that when I commit to something, the right people show up. Yeah. If I'm just kind of wanting it to happen, if I'm just kind of, gosh, I really need to do better. But until I say, I'm all in, there's no other choice, no other direction, I'm going to make this work, boom, people show up.
That's incredible how that is such a truth. As we wrap this up, it's been such a great honor talking with you. I love your energy. This has been so great.
Thank you.
What do you think is the big takeaway from this episode? What's the thing that you want people to walk away going, changing their lives and just a nugget, a thought that they need to, have stuck in their brain?
I guess I'll just, and maybe other people will have the same problem that I did, but recognize the excuses that you're making. We all make them at a certain level. I think we should. So, and here's an example of that. Anything that you say never, can't, won't, or you put it on somebody else. They can't, they won't, they'll never. I want you to change your words and say, I haven't figured out how to yet. I hadn't figured out how to build a course. I haven't figured out how to write a book. I haven't figured out how to make $1 million, as opposed to, I'll never make $1 million or I'll never write a book. Because I believe that your brain picks up on whatever comes out of your mouth. I believe it's a double feedback loop. And when you say, I can't do that, then your brain goes, yep, you can't. But if you say, I haven't figured out how to do that yet, your brain goes, yeah, how do we figure that out? And I will tell you that just that shift in my mind has made all the difference in the world. And I would recommend it to others. And so I've got a high antenna for excuses. And whenever I hear them from my clients, I'm like, what if I tell you something? Sure, that's an excuse. What are you going to do different than that? How are you going to fix that?
Okay, just how your mentor helped you, which is so good. Giving back. I love that. That's awesome. Man.